Hello. This is a bonus video for the Watercolour Tech and Play series. I'm Mary Helen. I'm a transpersonal art therapist and artist. And if you are like, wait, what's the Watercolour Tech and Play series? Hop onto the playlist that is in the video here, the link at the top, or in the description, and hop over there first. Go through that first, because that whole series is about foundational watercolor techniques that are simple and exciting, and they will be the basis of this video. So if you've already done all those, you're ready to jump into this video where we're going to bring it all together. So if that's you and you've finished it all, let's jump in. If you haven't, please go to that playlist and work through them first and then come back to this later. So let's get into it. I'm going to stick down my paper. So I've got a bigger piece of paper today. I'm going to stick it down with some painter's tape, which I am discovering is not sticking down at all. So let me pause there and find something that does stick. All right, take two. Let's see if this masking tape will have a little bit of a better... No! No! It doesn't want to stick onto this fake marble laminate. Isn't this just the way? Am I still gonna... It's not gonna work. All right, hopefully you can stick down your paper. Why do we stick down our paper? Just to so you don't have to hold onto your page, and just gives you a bit more freedom and you feel really secure. Mine's not working, but I do not want to waste my tape. So right away, I'm actually going to chuck it on my page, because remember how we did the resistant medium exploration? I think that could be part of creating a bit of resistance on my page. And I do not like to... Ooh, that's tearing all the paper off. I don't like to waste art materials or supplies. Like if you've seen some of my other videos, like the paper bag journal, you'll see that I'm a big repurposer if I can. So yeah, so what do you need? You just need all the stuff that we've already gathered together for the previous videos. So your watercolor paints, water, your salt, a little bit of plastic, maybe a permanent marker that won't run in the water, or maybe it does run in the water, and of course water and a jar and some paintbrushes. So the invitation here is we're going to play with bringing everything together. So the main focus, I suppose, on the foundational techniques that I showed you in the watercolor series was really a lot of wet on wet. And by the way, that series was not that's not all the techniques that exist with watercolor. There was just some that I picked out that I find to be incredibly freeing, and but also do a lot. Like, you get a lot for doing very little with them. So it's such a nice process for helping people let go of the need to be so controlling of their art, with a medium that won't let you control it. So also the other thing that you'll need is your oil pastels or your wax crayons. And we're going to jump in. So I hope you've got a nice piece of paper. And this is going to be more show than tell. But the invitation is to maybe work with a less representational idea, to just start actually having a play with all the techniques that you learn and putting them on one page. So think about mixing a salad. Yeah, it's a bit of a fruit salad. I'm going to chuck all the fruit salads together, and each bite is going to be zesty and fresh and sweet and yummy. But hopefully each bite is a little different. I'm going to start off with just mapping out. So satisfying. Some of my oil pastels on my page. So you notice I'm starting with my dry elements, because very soon I'm going to add in the wet element. Maybe I want a couple of surprises, so I'm going to put in a bit of white. All right. And I want wonder where you're seeing this video from, because I don't know who sees these videos, so you can let me know in the comments. And also, if you could like this video, that'd be really awesome, because I've only just recently activated this channel, and so I would love your help in spreading the joy of these really fun, expressive, freeing tutorials that I'm taking you through. Now moving into the wet on wet. Just going to wet my page, and a little reminder there, because you can't repeat things enough, right? To let that activate. And I notice as I'm working, I'm holding my breath. So invitation there too, to take a nice deep breath. Slow it down. While I'll work a bit faster, the invitation for you is to move slower, if that feels like what you need today. Sometimes that's where we kind of find ourselves too, when we're in our art process and we notice how fast or slow we're moving. It is the question, like, and is that the right pace for me for today? Okay, now I'm going to push all that water in there. And sometimes there's no answer to that, right? We just ask the question, and I'm actually someone who processes information a little slower than other people, and it can take me a little bit to know how I feel sometimes. Sometimes it's really fast, and other times it's a little bit more hazy. It's one of those days where maybe there's a lot going on in the body, and getting a clear kind of quick answer on what's happening isn't going to happen. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. That's just how it works sometimes. But we ask the question, yeah, what do I need today? I'm noticing a lot of my oil pastel, because it was quite chunky, kind of made all these little incidental marks. Just going to show you. And I like them, because with oil pastel, you know, it's quite a controlled medium. There's lots of ways to work with it where it's uncontrolled, right, or less controlling, and that comes from how you move. But I love these incidental things that happen. It looks like, it reminds me of like long exposure photography, where you see a light moving in a still image. So like the light painting, which I've actually done workshops on that, which is so fun. And actually it's my paintbrush that's pushing it around. There's a little bit of oil pastel that is zooming around. All right, I'll stop talking about that, because that's the thing that's just happening for me. All right, so I'm feeling like that's really ready to go. And now I want to choose a color. And yeah, you've guessed it. I'm using the blue that I've been using for this series. I love the blue. I wonder what colors you use, because you can pick a different color each time you do it, right? Oh, so satisfying. Yeah, you can pick a different color, and each color you could go through the watercolor series videos and just see how each color responds to each technique, because depending on the pigment of your paint, each color will have a different result. Some of them will really show up, and you'll maybe really enjoy the process with it, and some might not show much, and that's okay too. It's just we meet the paint. And I used to work with when I was studying, I did a little bit of study at a college. I worked with an amazing artist, and she was very play focused, and she would just put out all these amazing paints, because she was a rep for a really nice paint brand. And she'd be like, just pick a couple of paints and meet them. And we'd do a lot of processes like this, where we'd do wet on wet and just see how the different pigments interacted just with the water and the page, but also how they interacted with each other. And that really is, you're meeting the paint and you're seeing how it behaves, but you're not forcing it to be anything other than that. That's just how that paint behaves, right? It's not like, oh, it should be doing this. Well, we don't know what it should be doing. We're finding out through this. And I like the takeaway there that maybe as humans we're the same. Like, we have limits and we also have a lot of expansiveness in us, and a good way to find out about that is through creativity. Now, I've only really used blue, haven't I? Because I like it so much. I'm going to bring in some salt. I wonder what you're gravitating towards. And thanks for being here for all my tangents. Okay. Some salt. Let's bring in something else that wants to come into this painting. So this is a good time to refer to your little tests that you did, and have a look at some things you can do. So I'm gonna try out a bit of a gradient here. This orange is not my favorite, I'm going to tell you that, but I do like when it mixes with, it's just not my favorite color, because I'm a very color-based person, so there's some colors that really like, oh yeah, I really like visually, sensory-wise, kind of like feel it on a nice level, and then sometimes I'm like, But I'm going to judge the orange, more judging my reaction to it. The orange is fine. It's more like a red orange. But I like this color that it's making here, because it's, I don't know, it's kind of dusty. But again, it's just good to notice the judgments that come up around, what you're doing, and whether that's a judgment of the medium, the color, like I just had, or it's a judgment of you, like, oh, what am I doing? I got my plastic bag, which, by the way, because it's a really soft plastic, so I wonder what you used for the impressions video, which is where we're making textures. The soft ones really are so malleable, and then sometimes you can get those thicker bags that just like won't even stay on there, and sometimes also that's making sure you got a lot of water on there. But in some of the online workshops that I've recently ran with watercolor play, yeah, we really noticed the difference between what different plastic bags or foil or bubble wrap could do. But like this very organic kind of crystally pattern, which will come out, is fantastic. Oh, look, I love these moments up here. Okay, here's where I'm going to turn my page around. Just so I'm not trying to create any image and I'm seeing it from a different perspective. So this is a nice one to do if you're starting to feel like, oh, I want to control what I'm doing. Just switch the page around. I'm feeling like another color would be nice. And I notice actually I've got primaries on there, right? I've got the yellow, I've got the blue, and I've got this reddy orange. So this is just our wet on wet. And honestly, I'm not thinking too hard about going through all the techniques, but if you're finding yourself stuck, then just look back at what you've done and just pick one of those and go, okay, I tried that technique on this corner, or multiple techniques, and see what happens, see how they react together. And if they're not doing, or they're not kind of turning out what you hope for, that's good. That's a good experiment, just to see how do they behave. I think that this red orange might be very interesting, popped into the green. Oh, and my cat's arrived. Hi, Pico. What are you up to? You've come to help? He's doing his little ritual. So, just a reminder, we're just bringing everything together. What I'm doing will look completely different to what you're doing. What color should I choose, Pico? You want to pick one? Oh no, he's trying to get to the water. Oh, he's pulled off the plastic, and it's looking pretty good under there. Cats are the natural artists. What are you going to do with that? Oh. Oh. Hello, Mr. Artist. Yeah, you've got water on your feet and probably a bit of salt. Oh, he's doing a bit of impressions for me. He's doing some printing with his feet. Okay, so I've got little cat footprints in there now. And I suppose I'm going to have some little colourful footprints to clean up from around the house. All right, Mr. Pico. I'm going to choose purple. I feel like purple would be nice. Curious cats. I might just restore my setup. Deary me. Luckily, I'm not too precious about what I'm doing, and the cat always has something interesting to offer. So if your cat enters in and they're not upsetting you, it is okay to put your cat away, you know, but I don't mind, because paints are non-toxic, and so I know he's not in any harm, and sometimes he just finds some really interesting things because we do make a lot of art together. So yeah, invite your cat in. All right, so I'm going to turn it again. I need a fresh perspective. This is where also I'm thinking to pause for a moment, and I'm going to pause for a moment. I might come in with a couple more bold color strokes. I might come back in with just a bit more blue. Just kind of wandering around my page, but then I am sensing it might be nice to let things just sit for a while and let it dry. So what I could do is start a whole new one, and have two going at the same time and try something different. But for now, I'm going to let this dry, because what I'd like to do is do an extra technique which we didn't necessarily talk about, but layering. And so layering happens when we let things dry, and then we come back with some wet watercolor, more watercolor paper, and it layers on top of it. And I want to put a bit of salt there, but it has to dry. Otherwise, if I keep adding colors, and I did mention this in the first video, all I'm gonna have is like a muddy kind of looking artwork, which is totally fine. But you know, it's kind of like when you put on too many accessories in your outfit, and it's just like, there's too much going on. You can't really see the finer details, and it doesn't let the watercolor really show its true nature. So in order to try to show its true nature, I'm going to let it dry, because we know from our watercolor series, when it dries, it looks a lot different, right? When paint dries, it dries lighter. Same for acrylics, they dry lighter, and so we've got to let it do its thing. And also, I would like to pull off these bits of tape that I randomly put down, but I want to let it dry first. So I'll let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and do a little bit more play on it. So you're invited to do that too, or just keep working with it. Don't forget, if you're really working with like very wet medium, you can also play with tipping the page or swinging it around and just seeing what cool effects you can get there too. So this is your invitation and also your permission to play and not worry about an outcome and what you like and don't like. As I said, you already heard me saying, oh, I don't know about that color. That's okay. These are like, it's okay to, this is very human to have these things pop up. This is why I'm saying it, because that happens to me in my creative process, and I just use it as information of where to go next. I don't use it as a critique of me choosing a color that's not right. I just go, oh, okay. Like, that doesn't seem to be giving me the balance that I want or the direction that I want. So that's all it is. It's just information. It doesn't have to become a story about I'm not a good painter, I'm terrible with color. Oh, I know this is where we go with it. I hear this stuff so much. I'm not creative. These are just stories that kind of keep us in a box. So, and we're on a page, right? So how can you let go of those and just do whatever and be curious about it? Curious about it in a way that kind of catches those moments, but you use it to inform where you go next. You use it to inform what you want to do or what you'd like to try. So that's really that listening to the creative impulse that comes up. And for me, and I've said this in so many of my workshops over the years, really listen out for that little voice that says, oh, if I do this, I'm going to ruin it. Because in that place, like, that's a place where you can pivot and listen to that impulse and just see what happens. Because if you just sit in that place that you're at, where you're in the ambivalence of not knowing what to do next or go next, you won't go anywhere, and you'll be holding on to something that's just gonna stay as it is, and you're probably not super jazzed about it anyway, like, to be honest. But if you follow that creative impulse, you will continue to go deeper into the process, and you're also allowing yourself to go deeper within yourself. So listen out for those voices, and just go at your own pace. So it can be scary for some people to be like, right, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to cut into this, because I feel the urge to do that stuff all the time. But I have definitely trained myself over the years to do that. This is not a natural thing that I necessarily have done, but I'm probably more prone to take creative risks than most, which is why I offer these videos and offer the inside of my process for those that are interested, of course, about where I start to notice, oh, maybe I take that somewhere else. Like, oh, maybe I do this. Anyway, let's pause and let this dry, and we'll come back and keep working on it. And you are so welcome to just keep working at your own pace and discovering what you can discover as we muck around with our watercolor tech and play. Okay, so I've left this to dry for a little while, and today is a cooler day in Australia. So I'm in Sydney on Bidjigal land, and it's also a bit humid here as well. So sometimes things are not going to dry so quickly. I'm not so fussed about that, because I'm seeing some parts have dried and have really revealed lots of different kind of fun stuff in there. So the other technique that I didn't even think to bring into this is the mindful mark making. And so now that it's dried a little bit and I can layer on top, I'm going to start playing with that. And I'm going to remove the tape. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yep. Cool. I love those little pockets. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I don't really need to know. I am feeling like I kind of like to sometimes just honor these really gorgeous little lines that get created. I wonder if you can see that. Yeah, just at the edges there. They're just so lovely. For fun, I'm just coming in with a pen to kind of map that out a little bit. Maybe a thinner marker would be better, but you know, it's fine. Like, I just feel like I'm gonna kind of highlight those, because I dare say what I do next will mean they kind of shift and move a little bit, but just gonna have a little wiggle in there just for fun. And I might actually also map a couple of other spots. Ideally you do this when it's completely dry. Go back in and explore the spaces. And you don't have to do this at all either, but I feel like doing it because I think what I am finding with my play right now, for how it's going for me, is that there's not, I'm longing for some more scaffolding or structure. So those really bold black lines are going to give me that. Alright, so I'm going to start with some mindful mark making, maybe in these spaces. So I'll start with my straight line. I just love these moments. This is the real mindful part where you get so jazzed about, yeah, just like each stroke. And maybe that's not so simple, like if you've got a bit of a noisy head, it might be hard to tune into what you're seeing, but I think all we have to do is really just notice our experience. I will explore over this way, I think. I'm gonna snake my way around. I'm going to introduce a whole new colour. And how about some shapes? Because, you know, again, I'm saying that, you know, they could use some more structure in here. And now I'm going, that's not going to layer, that's really blending, but that's okay. But just to name that, maybe some shapes, because everything's very dreamy, very unstructured. Coming in with some shapes could be interesting. So I'm going to get bold with that. I'm going to take up a whole space with some colours. You can see the kind of muddiness of those. Like when they dry, I'll really see what they look like. But I would describe them as becoming a little muddy for me. And that's just because they're wet, and when you add multiple colors, especially if they're obviously I've got a blue and it's a pinky color, so it's gonna turn a little bit purpley, but we'll have to wait and see. So it also depends on the colors you choose, like how alike they are, if they're secondary or tertiary colors, how they're going to interact, and if they're, and this isn't, you don't even need to know this, but like if they're warm or cool, they might start to kind of, because like if you mix a warm tone with another warm tone, it generally becomes a bit dull and flat. However, saying that, I see this gorgeous moment happening here, which I think is interesting, with where this has really revealed the oil pastel. Yeah, so nothing wrong happening here. Again, exploring, let's turn it, but perhaps not letting it dry long enough and coming in with like more paint. A bit more patience and hurry up and wait from me. But I want to keep playing with my mindful marks because I'm just playing. I don't need an outcome. I just want to have a try of my techniques. So I'm going to try a spiral. This isn't necessarily one that I showed you in the other video, but naturally when you're playing with line, you just kind of start doing stuff like this. You don't really need to necessarily be told. You will naturally go, oh, how can I move my paintbrush with line? So I can do straight lines, wavy lines, dots and dashes, and then another one is I can do cross hatching like this. Very musical page, right? It's very feels very musical. Let's shift it again. So I wonder what you're noticing, what colors you chose, shapes, like what techniques you kind of gravitated towards. I always like when there's something that's really wet on the page, just chucking some salt in there is a good place to go. So lots happening there. That's really changed quite a bit since I started. It's taken quite a dramatic shift. And there's some really lovely moments over here where things have dried. I can see some of my hair's stuck in there. Oh, that's making its own line. Drag that out. Just leave it. Yeah, it's really changed. And just like even the incidental act of having those bits of tape on the page have also created spaces of contrast. I'm just throwing out some terms to help you look into your artwork. Not that you have to have those terms or even notice those things. It's just that those are things I'd notice in an artwork, particularly in the more expressive way of doing it. It is interesting to notice, you know, contrast, structure, organic kind of expression. Yeah, it's just interesting to notice that. And there's no analysis that's happening there. It's just noticing that, oh yeah, today that's present for me. All right, so guess what? Gotta hurry up and wait and let this dry. And then we'll come back and have another little look at it. But this is part of the Watercolour Tech and Play series, and it's just bringing everything together and having a real good muck around. And this is very intuitive based, so I haven't really gone with any particular structure, so it's just an invitation to spend some time having a play and seeing what interests you. So just a reminder to like this video, subscribe to my channel, because I've got many more mini series coming that are exploring different mediums. So if you enjoy it, if you're getting something out of it, please do like, subscribe, even share. That'd be really awesome as well, because I love sharing with people techniques. And you know, if I'm your cup of tea, then this is such a lovely resource for you. If I'm not your cup of tea, then guess what? There's millions of people on the internet doing it a different way, right? Hey, let's let this dry and come back and just, I might add in a couple more tips of how you can work with this and keep working with it so that you are inspired and keeping moving with your creative expression and feeling out where to go next with things. So I'll see you soon. Okay, we're back and dry finally. So this took quite a few hours to dry because it's a beautiful wet muggy day over here in Australia, and with the influence of my cat, this is also a very hairy painting, and you can see the watercolor that has the salt on it. I was going to say sand. I'm just going to rub at that. To lift it off. And I'm gonna dump that. So it's very minimal with the salt today, but it's got a very interesting texture. And I noticed today everything was just a little too wet, too long for the salt. And so what tends to happen, and now I'm not a watercolor expert, but I'm kind of like an expert at playing with stuff. What tends to happen is if it's too wet, it just actually dissolves into the page. So today perhaps I just needed a little less water. Sorry about bringing that in and out. But sometimes people do ask me, like, when we're online space, like my thing hasn't turned out like yours, or it's all globbed together. And the truth is, it's just whatever's happening on that day with all the variables. And again, with watercolor, whatever happens, happens. This is not a medium that we're necessarily trying to control in the context of how I'm offering it to you too. We're not trying to control it. We're letting it be. We're absolutely letting the watercolor be. And the hopes is that you let yourself be in that process too, that there isn't anything that has to happen. And we can just be there for all these gorgeous moments that are happening. So yeah, the salt didn't turn out what usually kind of happens, and that's okay, because in fact I really like this little goose pimple type patterns in there, because I actually have never really got that before. So they've kind of grouped together the grain, and yeah, it's more of a kind of polka dot feel that's going on here. So that's my whole image dried, and it's yeah, there's got a lot to see in that. So now I did say something about, I'm sure, other things that we can do with this. So yes, you could work into different spaces in the image. Now I do like sometimes accentuating like little moments, so maybe that is just like coming into the edges, playing with mark making, but now in a more controlled sense with a pen, or I could also be using oil pastels, but I've tucked them away so I don't have any of that. But yeah, you can keep kind of working back into it. You could even write in words, allow. Can we just allow the whatever has arrived to be the thing that's arrived today, and just allow it to be as it is, without it having to be beautiful, or something that's necessarily showable to the world. Do you even need to show what you've created? You might. Or can you just allow this to be the artifact of your play, the evidence that you spent time allowing yourself to just explore without a designation? These are big concepts. They're not so easy. I don't want to pretend that they are so simple. It's definitely simple for me to talk about that stuff, but even as you heard, I had my own frustrations or noticing things that might pull me out of my process, and into thinking and into critiquing and into another category of action that might not have let me keep working on this. Yeah, but not to ramble on, because you know I love a tangent. So what else can we do with this? Well, number one, just leave it as is. Just let it be for a little while. Stick it up on your wall, have a look into it. There's so much to see in here, so many little moments. You can also get your photo taking device, your iPhone, your smartphone, whatever, and actually, like, if I do this, suddenly this is a whole artwork, right? That's a whole artwork. So if I just zoom in on different spaces, there's a whole other little worlds happening in there. You could also cut this up and use it for collage. If you have seen my paper bag journal video, which is also on this channel, this could be folded to become a cover for those journals. You might just think, I can't believe she just folded that in half. I did. But yeah, this can be attached. If you cut it off, it can be attached to either ends. I might make a little video showing that, since it's one thing to say that things can happen. It's another thing to demonstrate how it happens. You could cut it up into lots of different pieces and it could become a collage piece. Yeah, you can, and then you can also work back into it. You can add in collage elements or 3D elements into it. So you could keep going, and maybe I'll make another video about us doing that. If you want that, leave that in the comments. Say yes, 3D collage please. Or anything I've mentioned if you'd like to see how that happens. And I'll, no promises that I can do it. This is a little passion project for me, starting to put some of my ideas in one place in long form. So that's it for today. So thanks for hanging out. I know it's a longer one. I always think it's going to be shorter than it is. And please do like this video, subscribe to the channel. That would be really helpful, particularly if you took something away from this. I'd be grateful for that. And yeah, flick me an image on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to see what you came up with. And you can ask questions. As I said, I'm not an expert and I'm not there with you, but I can definitely kind of give a little feedback on other things to try. But also, there's just nothing to get right here, and there's nothing that's wrong here. It's just as it is, because we just had a muck around combining all of those techniques that we learned in the 6-part series. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, this is something that you can do to just loosen up and have a bit of a play without really having to overthink it or have an outcome. All right, thank you so much for hanging out, and take care.